Good morning, dear students. How are you all doing? I hope you all are doing fine. And let's begin our today's class, right? So, but before we can begin our today's class, I will just be showing you a picture, and you need to tell me that where do you have saw this picture? Okay, right. So these are some pictures. So can you tell me what are these pictures? What is this picture? What are all these pictures of? Yes, students. Right. Okay. So basically, these are the different types of parenchyma, isn't it? These are different types of parenchyma, or we can say that these are different types of parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, isn't it? Right. Okay. So this is the parenchyma. This is the collenchyma. This is the sclerenchyma, isn't it? We have also about all this type of things, right? So what are those? These are the simple permanent tissues, right? So these are the simple permanent tissues. Okay, and why we call them as simple permanent tissues, students? Yes, why we used to call them simple permanent tissues? I told you that we used to call them simple permanent tissues because they were made up of just one type of the cells, right, students? Okay, very good. Now, students, just look at this picture. Look at this picture, this side of the line, this picture. Okay. So, what can you see here? Okay, you can see sieve plate, sieve tubes, phloem parenchyma, companion cells, right? All this is making one type of tissue, isn't it? All these things are making just one type of tissue, and the name of that tissue is phloem. You might have heard about this term, phloem. It is required for the conduction of the food, right? So all these things made up just a single type of tissue, and that tissue is called as phloem. So what shall we call this type of tissue that is made from more than one type of the cells, right? The tissue that is made from more than one type of the cells. Okay. So first of all, tell me that all these cells arise from which cells? Yes, we have studied that there is presence of one type of cell called as the meristematic cell that will divide rapidly and form a number of the cells, and those number of cells, what they will do, what they will differentiate into different type of the cells, right? So those cells that are derived from the meristematic tissues, those are called as the permanent tissues, right? Okay, now let's learn about the complex permanent tissues. We have learnt about the simple permanent tissues such as parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. So now we will learn about the complex permanent tissues. Right. So first thing is that the complex tissues or the complex permanent tissues, these are made up of more than one type of cells, right? These are made up of more than one type of the cells, right? And all these cells perform or coordinate to perform a specific function, right? All these cells, these coordinate to perform a specific function, and the name of that function is determined by which cell it is in, right? Which tissue it is formed, right? Okay, now you have understood what is the complex permanent tissue and how it is different from the simple permanent tissue. So a complex, you see, in the simple permanent tissue, there will be only one single type of cell, like we saw in the case of parenchyma. All the cells were similar, right? All the cells were just of one type. We saw in the case of collenchyma, all the cells were of the similar type. We saw in the case of sclerenchyma, if the cell was dead, all the cells were dead. If the cell was lignified, all the cells were lignified, right? They had just one type of tissue. That's why we used to call them as the simple permanent tissue. But now when we come to the complex permanent tissue, we can see that these are made up of more than one type of cells, right? These are made up of more than one type of cells. Okay. So all these cells, what they do, these coordinate and performs a specific function, right? So in plants, there are basically two complex permanent tissues, right? There are two complex permanent tissues, and the name of them are, First one is xylem. The first one is what? The first one is xylem, and the second one is phloem, right? So xylem and phloem, these are the examples of complex tissues. Okay, right. Very good. So now you might have heard this term like xylem and phloem. These are called as the vascular bundle, right? Xylem and phloem, these together constitutes what? These together constitutes the vascular bundle, right? Okay, so what is a vascular bundle? So like in our body, we have different type of arteries, we have different type of veins that carry blood in all parts of our body. Similarly, the different parts of the plant, these require what? These require water, these require food, isn't it? So to provide this, the plant has evolved what? A two vascular tissues, and these are xylem and phloem, right? The xylem conducts water and the phloem conducts the food, right? So see here, now from the evolutionary point of view, when the plants came to the land, I will tell you what I mean by that. That when the plants came to the land, what happened is that, see, all the life evolved in oceans, isn't it? All the life evolved in oceans, and from that it slowly migrated to the land, right? When different type of plants came to the land, then it has evolved a vascular tissues, right? And that vascular tissue was very essential so that the plants can continue their survival on the land, right? So vascular tissue is a distinctive feature of the complex plant, like we see in the case of mango, apple, neem, banyan. These are all complex plant, and it is the vascular tissue that has made it possible for the survival in the terrestrial environment. Okay, students, done? Is it okay with you? What we have studied? Right. We have studied that complex permanent tissues are made from more than one type of the cells. All these cells coordinate to perform a common function, right? There are two type of complex permanent tissues. First one is xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem together constitutes the vascular bundle, and the vascular bundle is necessary. Vascular bundle is a distinctive feature of the complex plant, and that has made the survival in the terrestrial environment possible. Okay, students, right? Let's proceed ahead. So there is one quiz for you. So complex permanent tissues is made up of the complex permanent tissues are made up of A, only one type of cell, B, more than one type of cell, C, both, or D, none. You need to answer this. Okay, students, right? I'm giving you 15 seconds to think about it, and then I will ask you. Right. So the answer is that the complex permanent tissues, these are made up of more than one type of cell. Okay, students? The complex permanent tissues are made up of more than one type of cell. So the next question is xylem and phloem. These are examples of which permanent tissue, right? Xylem and phloem. These are examples of which permanent tissues? I am giving you 5 seconds, not more than that. Okay, right. Okay, so the time ends here, and the answer is the xylem and the phloem are example of complex complex permanent tissues. Okay, students, right? Let's proceed forward. So students, just observe this picture, okay? Just try to observe this picture. Have you observed it? What you can see from this picture, students? Yes? What you can see? Right. You can see perforation plates, you can see member vessels, you can see fibers, you can see tracheids. So what is it? Can you think what it is? Yes? Okay. Let's see what it is. Okay. Right. So it is xylem, right? So we saw that xylem is what? Xylem is basically a complex permanent tissue, right? Xylem is a complex permanent tissue, right? And it is made up of what? It is made up of tracheids. It has vessels. It has xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers, right? Xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. These are four components that are present here, right? Okay, student. So when we look at the tracheids, you see this is the tracheid here. This tracheid and these vessels, right? These tracheids and these vessels has thick wall. Okay, these have thick wall, right? And it in the tracheids and vessels, many of the cells are dead when they mature. When the cells mature in the tracheids and vessels, these are generally become dead, right? Okay, so tracheids and vessels, what they have? Tracheids and vessels have tubular structure, right? Tracheids and vessels have tubular structure, which allows for the transport of water and mineral, right? So suppose this is the root of the plant, this is the root of the plant, and this is the tip of the plant. Okay, this is the tip of the plant. So from the root till the tip, right? So there will be this tracheids and vessels, and from in this tracheids and vessels only the conduction of water and mineral will take place. Okay, students, you understood this, right? Okay, now let's come to another portion of the xylem, another tissue, that is another type of cells found in the xylem tissue, and that tissue is xylem parenchyma. So what does the xylem parenchyma does? The xylem parenchyma stores the food, right? The xylem parenchyma stores the food. Okay, right. So what will be the function of the xylem fiber here? This is the xylem fiber here. So what will be the function of xylem fiber? So the xylem fibers are mainly supportive in function, right? So the function of xylem fiber is that these are mainly supportive in function. Okay, students, have you understood this point? Right. So let's quickly go through it once more, right? So, first of all, xylem consists of what? Xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers, right? Tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers, right? So, tracheids and vessels, these have thick wall, and many of the cells in the tracheids and vessels, these are dead, right? That many of the cells in the tracheids and vessels, these are dead when they are mature, right? So tracheids and vessels, these basically form the pipe type of thing, or we can say the vascular structure through which water and the mineral is transported upwards, right? So, and the function of the xylem parenchyma is that it stores food, and the xylem fiber, this provide support, right? The role of the xylem fiber is that it has a supportive function. Okay, students, right? Okay, let's proceed forward. So there is a quiz for you. So xylem is made up of the following: tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fibers, or all of the above. I'll be giving you just 15 seconds to think about it, not more than 15 seconds. Okay, students? Right? Okay, right. So the correct answer will be all of the above. Okay, the correct answer will be all of the above. We have saw that xylem is made up of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fibers. Okay, students. So let's proceed ahead. Okay, right. Now just see in this picture. What can you see? Yes. Okay, you can see sieve plate, you can see sieve tubes, you can see phloem parenchyma, you can see companion cells, right? So basically, this is the structure of phloem. This is the structure of phloem. Okay, students, this is the structure of phloem. Okay. Now let's see what is this. What is there in this phloem? Okay, right. So phloem is made up of five types of cells, right? The phloem is made up of five types of cells. The first one is the sieve cells. The first one is sieve cells, right? The second one is the sieve tubes, right? See here, first one sieve cells. Second one is the sieve tubes. Third one is the companion cells, right? Fourth one is the phloem fibers, right? And fifth one is the phloem parenchyma, right? So, phloem is made up of how many type of cells, students? Yes, phloem is made up of five types of cells, namely, first one is the sieve cells, second one is the sieve tubes, third one is the companion cells, fourth one is the phloem fiber, fifth one is the phloem parenchyma. Right, students? Okay. Let's proceed forward. So the sieve tubes, when you see about these sieve tubes, just focus your attention on these things here, these things. So sieve tubes are tubular cells, means it is an elongated or it is a pipe type of cell, okay? And it has perforated walls. You can see the perforations here. You can see the perforations here, isn't it? Right. So these are perforated wall, right? The sieve tubes are the tubular cells with the perforated wall, so that there is a connection with the lower cell and the upper cell. Okay, right? So the phloem, what it does, the phloem transports the food from the leaf to the other part of the plant. We know that in plants leaves there is chlorophyll, and what chlorophyll does? Chlorophyll aids in the photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is the making of food. The plant makes their food by using a process, and that process is called as photosynthesis, right? So basically, the in leaves the food is prepared, and from leaves that food need to be transported to all the parts of the plants, right? So for that the phloem functions, right? So the function of the phloem is that they transport the food from the leaf to the other part of the plants, right? So there is one thing special in the phloem fibers, that it is a dead cell, right? All other cells that are including sieve tubes, phloem parenchyma, companion cells, these are all living, but the phloem fibers, right, is dead, right? So we can say except for the phloem fibers, other cells are living. Okay, students, except for the phloem fiber means phloem fiber is dead, but rest all of the cells are living cells. Okay, let's proceed forward. So there is a quiz for you. So you just need to answer me that what are the different components of the what are the different components of the phloem? Can you answer this question? Yes, students. Yes, try to answer it. Okay, let's start with how many types of component are there in the phloem. Okay, it is five, right? So let's name all those five types of component in the phloem quickly. Yes, right. These are sieve cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers, and phloem parenchyma. Repeat after me once more. Sieve cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers, and phloem parenchyma. Right? These are the five components of the phloem tissue. Right? Okay. Let's proceed forward. So, what we have learned in our today's class, students? So, in our today's class, we have learned about the complex permanent tissues. Right? In our today's class, what we have learned? We have learned about the complex permanent tissues. So, let's try to answer some questions. Okay. So describe the characteristic feature of the complex permanent tissue. What are the characteristics feature of the complex permanent tissues, students? Yes, I'll be just be giving you 10 seconds of the time and you will be answering me. Just think about it fast. Yes, right. So complex permanent tissues, these are made up of more than complex permanent tissues. These are made up of more than one type of cells, right? These are made up of more than one type of the cells. Like we saw in the case of xylem, we saw in the case of phloem, these are all complex permanent tissues, right? So what is the function of xylem, students? Yes, what is the function of xylem? The function of xylem is that it conducts water from the root to all the parts of the plants, right? The xylem conducts water from the root to all the parts of the plants, and similarly, the phloem, what it does, it conducts the prepared food, right? It transports the prepared food from the leaves to all the parts of the plant, right? Okay. Now, what are the components of xylem? Who will tell me? Yes. So basically there are four components of xylem, right? Tracheids, first of all, there are tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers, right? Tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers, right? Tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fibers, right? Very good, students. And what are the components of the phloem? The components of the phloem are sieve tubes, right? Sieve cells, right? Sieve tube, sieve cells. After that, there will be what? Companion cells, then phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma, right? Phloem parenchyma. So there will be total 5 type of things there. Okay, students? Right. Now let's come to the homework section. So first of all, you need to prepare a chart showing different type of complex permanent tissues, denoting their location and the function. Okay. And after that, you need to describe the function of the components of the xylem and the phloem. So that was all for today's class. So thank you everyone.